Yeah, he called, and I was like, "Oh shit, Ripato's calling. I wonder what's going on." So I answered the phone, and he goes, "Rip doesn't say hello. He doesn't say hi or anything.
Straight to the point.
He goes, we want to hire you," and that's how it started.
All right, we're here today with Nick Delgadillo. For those of you that are interested in learning more about the behind the scenes of the Aasgaard Company and starting strength gyms, I thought this might be interesting for you. This is Nick works day to day with Rip and Steph and the infamous Bree and Rusty. So I thought today would be good just to say hello to Nick and give you guys some insight into what goes on behind the scenes. So Nick, my first question for you is, have you seen the 1999 Mike Judge masterpiece, Office Space?
Absolutely, yeah.
So what would you say you do here?
Well, Office Space was every other job I've ever had. Definitely not the Office Space situation. Mm-hmm. Who would be Rip in that movie?
I think Rip's one of a kind, man. I
could tell you for sure that Rusty would be the stapler guy. I don't remember his name. Milton? Was it Milton?
It might have been Milton. That was a good character. The spin line. Yeah. Who's Bree? I know who Ben is. Ben's the guy that Ben's the main character.
Neighbor.
No, Ben's
the main character.
No, Zach's the neighbor. What would you do with $1 million? Tell you what I'd do, man. 2 chicks at the same time. But yeah, man, I am curious how the hell, I don't even really understand what you do, because you do a lot. Because Nick runs, I guess Nick's technically a consultant for Rip and Steph, and he does a lot of stuff for them. Hopefully you can list out a few of those things. And then for the gyms companies, you guys already know, he runs the gyms once they're open. So as soon as a franchise owner opens a gym, it's Nick's responsibility to make sure they're successful, essentially. Coaching standards, quality standards, customer experience, all that stuff. So it's a big job in itself, and then you're doing that on top of all the stuff you do for the Aasgaard, and you just became a shooting instructor, and you're doing all kinds of shit. So I don't know how you pack it all in a day, but I'd love to hear about it.
Well, I don't. I'm constantly behind, constantly holding people off on stuff. So that's the ugly truth behind it. But well, when I originally moved here, it's been 7 years. 7 years last February. So when I originally moved to Wichita Falls, I came essentially just to do the shipping and customer service stuff for the store. So I was in the warehouse, shipping out people's orders, and then answering any of the customer service emails. And I did a couple of other things, just kind of helping out and everything. And then
you were Bree.
From there, yeah. And then from there, things, we just, it's a small crew, right? So we just started doing stuff, and a lot of the things that I had been interested in and involved in, I got to start doing more regularly, like taking pictures, doing videos. We started, I saw the first Ask Rip video was like in 2015. So that was not long after I got here. So you can kind of see the progression of the money that we've spent on videos and gear and stuff like that over the last 7 years. So yeah, I mean, it's just been, as things come up, we just, someone has to do them, right? And we just decide who, if we can do it, who's going to do it, and then it gets done. But everything we do here, very, it's everybody's doing what they can, right? So the podcast is It's all hands. Everybody's there for every podcast. So right now, I mean, I help Bree out. I help Rusty out. Bree is doing all of the stuff that I was doing originally, plus a bunch of other stuff. She's pretty busy herself nowadays. And then Rusty does the video editing. So whenever he needs help, I help him out. But in general, all that kind of day-to-day stuff that I was doing way back, I'm not really doing much anymore. It's a lot of emailing, a lot of chasing stuff down, getting
management shit.
Coaches. Yeah, getting coaches signed up for their listings and all that kind of stuff.
Nice. Yeah, so you had kind of a cool story when you came over to Wichita Falls that I want you to share if you'd like to, about when the call came in from Rip and how long it took you to decide and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, it was New Year's Eve of 2014. Yeah, because 2015 is when we came over. So it was New Year's Eve, and Rip is the only person who's going to call somebody on New Year's Eve with something like this. But
was it at midnight, by the way, or he likes? Well, he used to like later calls. Nowadays, it's not as bad, but it used to be like all hours of the night.
It wasn't that late. It was probably it wasn't close to midnight or anything, but it was 7 or something like that, 7 or 8 at night. Like again, outside of normal business hours,
Mm-hmm.
But that was relatively early for him because I know he regularly used to call people at 11 or 12 at night or later.
He's changed, man. He called me on a Saturday a couple weeks back, and there was something with a YouTube video that we needed an answer on. I was like, "You want me to call Bree?" And he goes, "No, it's late on a Saturday." I was like, "Man,
that's weird.
You've you're reformed." Andy Baker's got some cool stories about collaborating with Rip on practical programming and the calls at all hours of the night and stuff.
Yeah. And Andy had like 5 a.m. clients.
Mm-hmm.
It's great.
Yep.
So yeah, it was New Year's Eve, and basically, I got a call from Rip, and I had probably talked to Rip in person. I talked to Rip in person a few times. I don't on the phone, maybe once or twice. It's not like we called each other all the time. I hate talking on the phone. So I never picked up the phone and just called him out of the blue. But yeah, he called, and I was like, "Oh shit, Ripito's calling. I wonder what's going on." So I answered the phone, and he goes, Rip doesn't say hello. He doesn't say hi or anything.
Straight to the point.
He goes, we want to hire you, and that's how it started. And I was like, oh shit, okay. And we talked for a couple minutes. He basically said, we need some help. We need some help with shipping, and Steph's busy and all this stuff. So I was like, all right, well, let me talk to Kathy, and absolutely, I'm interested. And yeah, I mean, we pretty much decided that night we were going to do it. So my parents were there. It was a pretty chaotic evening. So I pulled her into the room and said that Rip had called, and they're like, yeah, let's go, let's do it. And that was it, man. Now it wasn't out of the blue. This was 2014, end of 2014. Sometime around 2012, I talked to Rip and Steph about. There were conversations even that early on needing help and having to hire somebody around here, and I was probably 5th in line. I was the only one who agreed to move and get going. And some of the people that they had considered, it's probably very lucky for them that they didn't go with any of those folks, because it would have gone bad.
Mm-hmm. It takes a special personality to handle the intelligence and the intensity of the Rip and Steph team. I mean, it's sink or swim would be an understatement.
It's been great. Yeah, it's been great. But yeah, so anyway, there was a little bit of buildup. I'd done camps and a couple of seminars up to that point. So I knew a little bit about what what to expect and what I was getting into. But yeah, 2 months later we were here. It was funny because Rip's like, well, you'll give them. I was like, well, I need to make some arrangements here before I go, right? Because I'm running a warehouse. I've got 20 or so employees that I'm responsible for, and I was like, well, I need to do some get some stuff taken care of here before I leave. He's like, oh yeah, you'll give them 2 weeks. Can you be here in mid-January? And I was like, oh no. No, I can't. This is probably going to be more like end of February, So my boss, who's also I've kind of lost touch with him, but also a friend at the time. I called him up, told him what was going on. He's like, "Oh, that's great, so awesome," and we just immediately started looking for somebody to replace me. Got him hired and trained up, and then I hung around for a little bit, and then moved at the end of February. So February 2015 is when I came over. First thing Rip had me do, and he wasn't even in town. Him and Steph were somewhere, I don't remember where, maybe at a seminar or something. I moved over the weekend, and I somehow ended up on the roof of the gym tarring the skylights, just putting tar on the skylights, and I hadn't seen Rip yet up to that point, and then he pulled up. And then he climbs up the ladder, pokes his head up over the side of the roof. He's like, "Here we are. We're all Wichitans now." and then
he's hazing you basically.
Oh, I know for sure. And there was a guy visiting, and we went out to his house for dinner, and I was like, you know what this motherfucker did? The first thing he does when I get here is has me go up on the roof and tar the roof. So we're all laughing and joking about it, and Rip's like chuckling. He's like, "I just wanted to see."
I'm glad you passed the test, man. You already moved and quit your job, so good for you.
Yeah, no shit.
Fuck, man.
Yeah, it was a calculated. I mean, we were closer to home, home being St. Louis, so we were closer to home. And if shit went bad, we just go back home, and I'd probably get rehired with the guys I just left somehow. So it wasn't such a dramatic and scary thing. Although as a cross country move, so it was a big deal for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's not uproot the whole family and move somewhere, but I always have a backup plan, of course.
Yeah. I don't consider you to be an impulsive guy. You're pretty thoughtful and considered in the way you make decisions. So what was it about this opportunity that made you willing to make the decision essentially the day of?
Oh, no question, man. I really enjoyed the job I was in at the time. I really liked what I was doing. I was living in Reno. I really, really liked Reno. My whole family really liked Reno. But my life was waking up at 4 a.m. And going to the gym and either coaching or training myself, getting to work at 7:30, and then running around doing crazy logistics stuff all day until 5 or 5:30 or more, depending on what was happening. And then going back to the gym and either teaching a class or coaching people. And that was 6 days a week plus Saturday morning. So it was pretty insane, and this is what I'd wanted to do for a long time. So it always been kind of a side hustle deal, and I always pictured myself doing something like this full time. So, yeah, I mean, there's just no question when the opportunity comes up, let's go.
Nice, hell yeah, yeah. It's cool to watch that happen now with people all over the country moving to different gyms and taking advantage of these coaching opportunities and kind of doing the same thing, just going for it and having faith in the brand and Rip and everything we're doing.
Right.
I've been wanting to work with Rip in some capacity since I first did the program, just because I was so blown away. It's not very often you come across something in life that has such a fundamental impact on everything that affects your daily life, and is so clear, obvious, and provable. And when I read the book, I thought it made perfect sense. Really, it was an enjoyable read. Rip's a great author, and the theory was solid. And then when I did the program, as a natural skeptic, I was just absolutely blown away that my skinny ass was actually putting on some muscle. And so I actually emailed Rip early on and asked him to come out to Asia, where I was living at the time. And we were going back and forth. I thought maybe we might do a little Indonesia, Thailand, Singapore tour or something at the time, but yeah, Rip didn't want to travel. So
yeah,
it didn't work out, but it was cool. And that kind of planted the seed and built the relationship. But I want to go back to you. So you guys definitely have a DIY vibe at the Aasgaard Company. I mean, if you people, hopefully we can get Steph on someday to talk about this, but if you guys were able to see all the systems that Steph has built, for example, and manages herself, it's pretty advanced stuff, pretty intricate, detailed, complicated stuff. And it's only possible if you have people that are motivated, bright, willing, and able to learn. And obviously, that's Rip and Steph based on just the massive amount of information they have across so many different categories. And then you fit in perfectly because the video stuff is a perfect example, right? You've essentially become a professional photographer, professional videographer. You're a producer, including audio. You and I just spent 30 minutes troubleshooting my soundboard and checking to make sure I actually plug things in. It's cool for me to work with people that have that kind of attitude, because I come from big corporate, and big corporate, it's like no one really has any skills other than talking. It's politics, right? So it's like, oh yeah, we need to do this thing. And maybe there's some people that are sharp with strategy. Those people are few and far between. And then it's like, okay, cool. We need this. We need to hire so-and-so to do this and so-and-so to do that. For you guys, it's just like, we're going to figure it out. And man, look at Starting Strength Radio. I mean, that's my favorite show. I'm one of the producers of the show. I don't do much anymore other than help get guests and things, but I watch that show every week and I love it. I laugh my ass off, and it looks awesome and it sounds awesome. And man, the commercial, if you go to YouTube and you type in Starting Strength Gyms, what's the title of our commercial? Starting Strength Gyms. If you go to the YouTube channel and you click, it's the featured video on our channel. So Nick fucking made that, right? You just grabbed the stock footage, you put together the audio. I wrote the script and the storyboard, and then Ripito recorded because he's a damn professional broadcaster in a past life, and we have the three of us, mostly you, put together a no shit professional quality commercial for the Gyms Company. And then if you go to Starting Strength Cincinnati, there's this wrap that they have on the front of the windows, because there was some stuff that you could see into the place, and there was like a pillar, and they just kind of wanted to cover up the windows. And the window covers look awesome, and it's all your photography. Those are your photos.
That's pretty cool.
And then in the gyms, we have these booklets that explain what we do, and with the exception of one photo that looks kind of yellow that I took. You hadn't taught me about white balance at that point. The photos look, I mean, it's all high quality professional stuff. And the thing that's great about that is it's the only way that we could do this company bootstrapped. You need millions of dollars, if not 10 million plus, to start a franchise company like this, to hire the talent that you need to pull off everything that we've pulled off. But we've done most of it ourselves, and a lot of it you've done. And yeah, man, that's why you're a shareholder. So thank you for that. But that's a long-winded introduction to a question, which is essentially, what's your take on that? What's different about you guys? Have you thought about this at all? Is that apparent to you? What's different about the way you guys operate versus the way other companies operate and other people operate?
Well, in general, people aren't good at doing a lot of different things. They're marginally good at doing one thing, and then they suck at pretty much everything else. And this has just been a perfect storm of a few people, of a couple of people, Rip and Steph, having a very broad base of knowledge and just skills in so many different areas. And having worked at it for years and years and years, and just created this thing, right? So I came in late into the process, man. It just happened that I have always had a lot of interests, and then the things that I'm interested in, I get pretty obsessive with, and I go pretty deep. And there's four, five, six things in my life that I've really gotten into, and then I pretty much just go all in and get kind of obsessed. And as a result of that, I think it just happened that that's probably one of the reasons that I first found Starting Strength, right? And then, well, it is one of the reasons. It's probably the reason that I found Starting Strength, and the reason that it appealed to me. And then because I have all these interests and all this stuff that I like to do, it just seemed to be just a good fit. I just kind of fit in there. And then on top of that, I really enjoy working with Rip and Steph. So it's all good. It's good all around. And then, shit, man, I've created my own job. I can do whatever I want. Any idea that we come up with, um, it's just like, well, sure, let's do it. And then here we go. We're off. And then you coming in with this gyms thing, it's just the next logical step, the next extension of all this, right? So, yeah, no, absolutely. I'm completely aware, man. I mean, what do people charge to make a 30-second video? A cheap 30-second video is probably a couple grand, if not more than that. So I'm here. I can do it. I enjoy doing it. So let's go and let's do it. And then it's just, there's a lot of benefit for me too, because all this stuff that I've been really interested in for a long time, it's in a lot of ways it's paying. I mean, in a lot of ways it's paying off, finally. So it's not just, it's gone from being just hobbies, not just hobbies, to things that make me money. Right. So
this stuff gets me so cool. Fired up. I'm actually sweating a little bit right now. It's partly because of these studio lights, and also because, man, all I've ever wanted to do in my career was kick as much ass as possible. And I was so frustrated to find that almost nobody feels the same way. Most people are there to collect the paycheck, put in the amount of work that gets them where they want to go. For most people, that's just cruise control, and then go home. And then here I am with you, Rip, and Steph, and it's just what is the thing that makes the most sense? Let's do that thing. Let's figure it out. And let's always break it down to the first principles. Let's never be beholden by convention. Let's never do it the way everybody else is doing it just because that's the way they're doing it. Let's think it through, do it our way, and we might even be able to make it better. And that fires me up. And I'm glad it does, because there's a part of my personality that needs that fuel. And
right.
The fact that you three operate like that kept me so motivated building the franchise company with you, especially during the times like COVID. I mean, that's the stuff that, it keeps you, especially when you're working with good people that you want to see succeed. It is extraordinarily motivating. And I haven't had this sort of kind of iron sharpens iron, if you want to use the cliche sort of vibe, or since maybe, Muay Thai fight camp days, where it's just you're surrounded by killers. Everybody wants to be the best, and they'll do whatever it takes. Doesn't matter. No excuses, no complaining. Just fucking get it done. So I love it. Working with you guys it's intense. It's inspiring. It can be chaotic sometimes when a problem comes up. It's overwhelming because there's so much to do. But this is the most fun I've ever had at work. And the fact, just like you said, the fact that we get to kind of, I mean, you and I were talking the other day. I was telling you that I've got a baby on the way, and I spend too much time in front of screens. And my goal for next year is to spend 2 hours or less per day on a screen. And then you were telling me how that's just not in your future, right? And I was like, well, just dream it up. Dream up whatever you want your day to be like. And as long as we're making money, we'll figure it out and make it work. And that's a really cool place to be. And I think that if I said that to you when we first met, you might be like, okay, yeah, whatever, this guy's full of shit. But I think over the past couple of years that we've proven to each other that that's true. We can just think through what would be ideal and then go and pursue that. And we have the audience, and we have the brand, and we have the skill set, and we have the people, and we have the drive to actually get that done and bring it to life. So
right.
I don't know if you feel the same way or not. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, but it's pretty cool for me.
The spending 2 hours a day on the screen thing is, everything that I do is through an internet connection and a screen, So I don't necessarily see it the same way you do in terms of like the screen is draining me of my life, because it's it always be good to do less. It just, I guess, be more efficient is the way I look at it. So I don't necessarily mind that too much, but no, you're absolutely right. It's just for the last 3-4 years, you're just kind of always trying to catch up, always trying to get ahead of things, always trying to solve problems. In the last 6 months with the gyms, with the starting strength gyms, it's finally getting to the point where we've figured a lot of stuff out, and we can actually start making things better rather than just, we've spent the last 3 years just literally every day just figuring out shit and solving all these crazy ass problems that come up.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I both deal with it, and other people on the team like Jen deal with it way more than we do. But that's been all of our lives for the past 3 years. So the way I look at it is the next 3 to 5 years, it's just optimizing it, making it better, and getting it to run smoothly, and bringing on people that can get that done.
Yeah, we've built the machine, and now we're optimizing the machine. It's a totally
Right.
different mode of operation. For you business nerds out there, for all three of you watching this, there's this concept I love called Tuckman stages of organizational development. So those go from storming to forming to norming to performing, and you're at you're at one of those stages at various parts of the development of a company, or the development of a part of the company, and those require very different modes, and they require a lot of flexibility, which is good because typically the startup team is not the team that is the in-life team. But since we're all pretty flexible and willing to learn and be dynamic and kind of go with the flow, I don't think that applies to us, but we'll find out.
Well, yeah, we have the added problem, I guess you could say, of having to maintain an extremely high standard.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't really have a thing that we can package up and hand off to somebody and expect it to go well for the next for the next however many years. So at least myself, I'll always be involved in this very heavily, just making sure that shit goes the way it's supposed to go, and that things remain the way they are right now, or get better, which they are. I mean, I think in general the starting strength, the application of the starting strength method is being done better than it's ever been done at a large scale, just because of the number of people that we have direct contact with in terms of developing and teaching them how to do starting strength, and how to deliver starting strength, and how to coach starting strength.
Mm-hmm.
We've never been in a better position to do that. So, with the franchise company with the starting strength gyms, it's going to take more of a traditional business flavor. There's going to be more people hired on. There's going to be more things outsourced, just because that's the nature of the beast. With the Aasgaard Company, I don't ever see it getting big. In terms of it'll always be a small crew, because we don't really need to do that much.
It wouldn't help you if you had more people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It things hard.
Yep. And basically, the Aasgaard Company has created all the intellectual property. You guys have created the books and the DVD series and all the articles on the site and all the stuff on the forum. The program exists. It could not be better documented. The brands exist. And from my point of view, the challenge now is there's this insight that we have about how we can make our physical existence on Earth better in a way that can't really be done with any other program or approach. And now the challenge is, how do we bring this to as many people as possible? And that's really what the Gyms franchise is all about. It's about accessibility, because in the old days, there's a small percentage of the population that is willing to do what you and I did, which is go seek out the information, not just buy a book and read the content, but read it several times, go on the website, nerd out, and spend just hours upon dozens of hours educating ourselves and doing trial and error. A lot of people don't have the time for that, or that's not how they're wired, or whatever the reason may be. The people that are willing to do that, it's such a small percentage. And those amount of people got us to 35 million impressions per year online. Just those people. That's a gigantic proportion of the total amount of people that exist in the world that are like that. And now it's, how do you appeal to Denise in Boise? We just had a video come out on day of recording. It came out today, June 13th, on the YouTube channel. And Denise and I sat at Starting Strength Boise, and she's a medical doctor and worked in the field for many years. And she was telling me how she discovered Starting Strength through one of our ads, and then read about it. It immediately clicked and made sense. She went down, was intimidated, did it anyways, and she took her squat from 55 pounds to 190 in 8 months, and went from 65 to 212 and a half for 5, I believe, on her deadlift in the same amount of time. And and is reaping all the benefits. When she came into the gym, she was trying to solve a problem, which is I've been breaking my bones doing the things that I like to do because I'm losing bone density. And now she does the program and she's way more resilient and her quality of life is better. And so that it's a marketing challenge essentially. And the franchise company essentially is a marketing company because we're just packaging up this thing that you guys have built and bringing it to people in a way that they can easily digest, easily understand, easily access, and then easily benefit from. So yeah, that's kind of the way I look at it. Is that aligned with the way you see things?
You mean in terms of how does a franchise company fit into the big picture of starting strength?
And that's part of it, but the bigger question is more the Aasgaard Company's role, because I was just riffing off of your point that you guys are always going to be small, and I think the reason for that is there's not everything's built,
Right.
So now it's just a matter of how do you allow people to leverage that stuff to keep
Right.
to get it to more people while keeping the standard high.
Yeah. I think it's going to be on us to give direction in terms of things start going in the wrong way, just to re-steer back, get the ship righted and get things going back to where they should be, and to keep everybody focused. There's the right now all the most of the gyms. I mean, this is all still fairly new, so everybody's pretty much staying on task and delivering what they're supposed to be doing. But I can I'm always trying to foresee the problems and see where things are going to be things are going to start getting silly or whatever. But as this thing gets bigger and bigger, we've got 100 gyms, we've got 500 coaches. People are going to start injecting their own shit into the thing, and that's at some level that's okay, obviously, right? Because I've been saying this now for half of a year to gym owners and anybody I talk to about this. It's like, starting strength is our job is to get people strong, and starting strength is the tool. It's just a tool, right? It's the best tool that we have available to do that. The principles, the method, the program, all of those things are tools. But what we need to have, the next phase in our evolution in terms of the gyms and making good coaches, is actually making good coaches. So people who can take that tool and talk to and convince and integrate that with people's actual day-to-day lives, right? Mm-hmm. So taking a 22-year-old kid and turning him into an SSC in 7 months is absolutely doable. We've done it over and over and over again at the gyms. Taking that same kid and you can't give him life experience. You can't give him the interactions with normal older adults, who have 40 years on him and have been through a lot of shit and are in pain. And you can't give them that experience. So and you can't teach him how to talk to somebody like that. And you can't teach him how to be convincing to somebody like that just by giving him an SSC. Those people, the new coaches who come in fresh, have very little experience with what we're doing. They're different from you and I and all the coaches that have been around for a while that found this stuff and got obsessed with it and learned it on our own and took 2 years, coaching on the side, and then went and did the certification and passed it. That's a different process than somebody who signs up as an apprentice at a gym and then half a year later is now an SSC, right? So, so that's good, and it's also a problem. It's a problem because they lack the interpersonal experience that a really, really good coach requires. Mm-hmm. So the next thing for us is how do we take all those lessons that we've learned and pass them on to new coaches and get them good. Now, the advantage is that these guys are going to be seeing 100 people on a regular basis in the gym. They're gonna be seeing lots of reps, so they'll get that education in short order, right? But it needs to be focused. It needs to be intentional. It can't just happen on accident like it did for me or it did for you or somebody else, right? Does that make sense? So you can't have, and I've already seen this happen with some younger coaches. We all go through this phase where you have a thing and you get excited about it, and it's the thing, it's the greatest thing ever. Starting strength has changed my life, all this shit, and then you're doing it for a while, and then you start going in different directions. You're like, oh, that looks interesting, and you start doing this. You're like, oh, that looks interesting, and you try all these different programs, you try all these different ideas, you try all these things, and then it takes a while. Depending on how bad you fuck up, you always come back to the basic principles. You always come back to the simplified things, and you realize that, okay, this is far more than just 3 sets of 5 and 5 pounds at a time. It's far more than 5 exercises. There's more to it than this. So that in my head right now, like how do we get people through that little chasing squirrels phase much quicker, so that you don't have somebody programming a bunch of RPE and shit inside of a gym because they're just bored. They're bored with programming basic barbell training.
Or they were convinced by some bullshit article that's purely based on theory.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Or they're experimenting with something in their own programming, so all of a sudden all their members start experimenting as well. So
happened to me when I was coaching an affiliate. I was program hopping, and the program made sense in my mind, and it was actually from an SSC at the time, and so I started having other members do it, and then found out very quickly that not only did it not align with our principles, but it didn't fucking work. I was getting beat up and not making progress, and then I was doing the same thing to my members. So yeah, that is the goal, and as you've been saying a lot lately, I really like the way you've been thinking about this. Is the SSC is a job requirement, essentially. It used to be this special thing, and it was the only way you could access starting strength, and there were very few people, and it still is going to be a very special thing because we're head and shoulders above everybody else in the industry. But it's our standard. Right. So it's a job prerequisite. And the SSC doesn't mean that you know how to handle someone that has a back tweak. The SSC doesn't mean that you know how to handle a gal who's 40 and gained a little bit of weight, even though her waist shrunk, like we discussed on this morning's gym ops call. The SSC doesn't mean that you're able to handle a shitty, harassing member, which we just dealt with at one of the gyms in a place I won't mention. So it's really good that you're thinking about it this way, because there's the technical skill, and the SSC essentially just certifies that you have a baseline technical skill, right? Like you can coach this stuff on the platform under pressure and do it pretty well.
And it actually only tests that you were able to do it on the day of the seminar, right?
Yeah. So it's a high standard, but it's actually not that high of a standard. It just everything's relative. So there's a lot more to it than being able to do that on the day of, and then being able to pass the oral board. So I think you're spot on, and I'm glad you're leading this with Andrew Lewis to make sure that everybody can benefit from all the experience from you guys, and it'll be integrated into our systems and processes.
Right. Yep.
Dude, I wanted to go back to what you said about the things you're obsessed with, and how you love just kind of going nuts and learning all the details. Because, yeah, I mean, when you and I first met, and actually when I met Rip too, I just assume for everybody that everyone has their thing, and everybody else and everything else that they know about probably is not at that level, which is a huge mistake with you guys. Don't ever think that way about the guys at the Aasgaard Company. And this is probably why all these fuckers on YouTube tell you to stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane, right? Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I didn't realize Rip had a seriously, from my point of view, an advanced understanding of economics, for example, and a very sharp business mind. And is a geologist, and he could. I'd rather ask him questions than any doctor I've ever met when it comes to my health, as far as his understanding and background. Steph's the same way, and just you name it, in the amount of things that she knows. So I want to ask you about your hobbies, because it's interesting to me, because a lot of our hobbies overlap. So what are those 5 or 6 things that you're obsessed with?
Yeah, it's kind of tough. I mean, there's 5 or 6 things I can point to. The lifting stuff has been a part of my life since high school. I started lifting for football, just to get better at football my freshman year of high school. So I went to did my freshman year of high school football, and then as soon as the season was over, the coaches were like, "Hey, you want to get good at this stuff? You got to lift. We lift, every day after school, whatever." So I started that, and then immediately realized that this is a thing that you get out of it what you put into it. So for like a 12, 13-year-old kid, I think that was a huge lesson for me to realize that I had control over progress, in some area of my life. So that was a huge thing, and then through high school, it was football, it was lifting, and it was playing guitar. That was probably the first thing that I was kind of obsessed with. I had a guitar in my hands all the time. We didn't have phones, we didn't have the internet back then. So I was watching TV and I was playing a guitar. I was, going somewhere. I had a guitar with me. So that was, that was huge. I spent most of my high school years doing that kind of stuff.
I don't want to divert the conversation too much, but just really quickly, give me your heaviest song off the top of your head, because you and I both love heavy music and guitar riffs.
My heaviest song, God, man, I hate questions like this.
Like the favorite, Rip's favorite.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I could open up Spotify real quick and see what the last song I played. And here's the thing, like I'm like one of these guys that stunted in high school and early college, right? Because I don't, like I was telling you this the other day, I don't have any idea what any new music is. So I was like, give me some new shit, because I'm just listening to the same stuff I've been listening to for 20 years. Mm-hmm. So like I still listen to a lot of Zayo and Norman Jean.
Hell yeah.
These bands that I listened to when I was in high school, right?
They don't make music like that anymore, so no choice.
Maybe they do, but I don't know about it.
You're not too tuned into pop culture or subcultures anymore?
No, not at all. Not at all.
All right, I cut you off there. Sorry. So you're saying after high school, lifting, football, guitar.
Lifting, football, and then when I went to college, in college I just fucked around a bunch. But in my early 20s, I started doing martial arts, mm-hmm. In Muay Thai. So I did Muay Thai and then started doing submission grappling at the same time with the same crew of guys. So every Saturday we would grapple. And this was the early days. I mean, not in terms of like when the UFC and stuff started, but this would have been early 2000s. I didn't even know what the UFC was. I had no idea. So anyway, that became my thing. I was training as often as I could. I started. I guess let me back up. In high school, I coached a lot. So I coached the younger guys. I always had training partners, and I was kind of the guy that people would ask questions to all the time. So I would say that's probably where my kind of coaching stuff came in. I always liked teaching and coaching as long as I can remember. And then when I got into Muay Thai, immediately kind of jumped into some coaching stuff there, and I started training security people. And this is like I'm 22, 23 at the time, and I would go to bars and teach people how to secure their bars, how to not get sued, because bouncers, your typical bouncer just wants to fight everybody. So at a pretty young age, I had a pretty honed idea of customer service. As silly as it sounds, but customer service in terms of like security at a bar downtown. So I rearranged my whole life to train a bunch. I like lived at home with my parents just so I didn't have to make a lot of money so I could go train, and just trained all the time. And then stuff happened around 2005 or so, and I stopped working out, training with the crew of people that I was working out with. And then I found Krav Maga in 2005, met an Israeli dude who was in St. Louis, and became good friends with him. And then again, that was like my next obsession, was this kind of the self-defense world. And the thing there was doing Krav Maga was how I learned how to coach normal people, because Krav Maga was just exploding at the time. It was huge. And you would get normal folks walking in the door. In my nobody knew what Muay Thai was. a lot of people still don't know what Muay Thai is, unless you're on the coast somewhere, right? But in St. Louis, Missouri, nobody has any idea. Probably not anymore, since UFC, everybody hears about Muay Thai all the time. But at the time, there was like 8-10 of us who would train, and that was it. And you wouldn't get just a normal person walking in and wanting to kick each other wanting to get kicked in the legs as hard as they could, just for fun, right? So with Krav Maga, it's like, okay, and the self-defense I was teaching before Krav Maga was, it was, again, just kind of very narrow focus, young people doing security type stuff. It was all pretty shitty anyway, it wasn't any. But anyway, with Krav Maga, all of a sudden I have access to normal people, and I'm started teaching very soon, very early on there. I trained for about 3 months, and then I went and did instructor stuff in LA, got certified, and then I was teaching classes. So I was teaching 20, 30 people a night, and training probably 20 hours a week, if not more. So I, again, rearranged my life. So I got a job at the airport, working security, and I would work from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. and then I'd get home and go right to sleep. Sleep from 7:30 to about 3:30. Get up, take a shower, get ready, pack all my shit for the day and for work, and I would go to the Krav Maga school, and we would spar from about 4:30 to 5:30. So all the instructors and a couple of other students, we would spar, and we were all into actual fighting. Like we weren't, everybody says this, but we were no shit actually fighting. Like we were boxing. We had a boxing coach. We would do.
It wasn't choreography.
We were a Bas Rutten MMA school. So we did Bas Rutten's program.
You learned how to smash a liver, in other words.
Yeah, right. Yeah, liver shots, man. Yeah. So we sparred, and then we rolled every day before class. And then I would teach from 6 to 9 every night, and that was 6 days a week, and then eventually 7 days a week. We added Sunday classes too, so I was teaching all the time, and that's where I really learned how to coach. I saw people for the first time that you would tell them to move their right hand and they would wiggle their left foot. Just had no idea of anything, and I got really good at teaching people how to move. And that's when I became really interested in coaching coaches. So eventually I kind of became the coach development guy, and I would send people to courses, and they would all do great. And that kind of elevated my knowledge of everything. And then I started realizing that what I was teaching wasn't very good, and kind of got into more serious self-defense stuff, like putting on helmets and testing all this stuff that we had been teaching.
By the way, just to pause
cool.
you for a sec, Rip isn't a very complimentary guy. Would you agree with that statement?
He does it in his own way.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not going to go out and yeah.
Let's just say compared to other people, he's probably on the lower end of the scale when it comes to being generous with compliments. Is that a fair statement?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, again, not in the traditional way. Like, he's not going to call you and be like, Ray, really appreciate how you blah, 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 blah.
Never going to happen. Never going to happen.
Right. However,
he did call you one of the best coaches in the world on a podcast, which I think my mouth might have fallen agape when I heard him say that. That's a serious fucking compliment.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. And I think he's right.
I don't know if it was just for the convenience of the podcast or what, but no, seriously, that's a huge compliment.
Yeah, it's a huge compliment because he's a wizard of a coach. I mean, I've seen him in his office where I thought he was looking at his screen and fixing someone's squat who's on a platform 100 feet from where he's sitting. He's not even paying attention. It's just he just has a sixth sense for this stuff. So you're
right.
I mean, all this experience and dealing with normal people and putting all this stuff together and always evolving has clearly paid off. You are a phenomenal coach, and you've helped me develop as a coach, and you're helping the whole organization develop as a coach. So thanks for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks,
man. Yeah, this is getting kind of long, but anyway, the Krav Maga thing really went into a lot of stuff. So, along with that, fitness and teaching conditioning classes, and looking for looking for a way to make those conditioning classes better. I realized that the conditioning that we were doing, like flipping tires and slosh pipes and kettlebells and throwing shit around, wasn't really making anybody much better. You know, it was just making everybody tired quicker. So, you know, life happened and I moved around a bit. During this time, I kind of started taking pictures too. I'd always been interested in taking pictures and how, you know, cameras and stuff like that. So I remember buying early like '08 or so, '07. I remember buying what I thought was a good camera at the time, and then just started taking pictures, and then took a photography course online too at that time. And then ever since then.
Is that the link you sent me?
Oh, no, this was through a community college.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And that was great. That was a great class. It was really, really good. I didn't perform worth a shit, but I learned a lot, and then that kind of set me up to figure things out going forward. So I would take pictures, you know, during classes and stuff, and take videos and stuff, and they weren't very good, but you know, I kind of always, I had a camera with me a lot at the time.
Still do.
But anyway,
you travel with a giant case.
Yeah. This shit just gets heavier and more expensive.
And if you ever see Nick, he loves it when people go up to him and say, "Hey, you've got a nice camera. Can you snap a photo?" So just feel free to. He's happy just to do stuff for free. So just ask him.
Yeah. Have Nick take it. He's got the good camera.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Everybody who's got to spend any time taking photos has heard that before. So yeah. Anyway, the whole reason I'm here is from working with people through self-defense stuff. You know, so I was looking for certification. I got heavily into CrossFit when we lived in Columbus. You know, that was, I became pretty obsessed with that because I thought it was great. You know, it kind of reintroduced me to barbell training in some way. And I spent a lot of time just trying to figure it out. And one of the reasons, and being young at the time, I thought because it was complicated that it was the answer. And I don't consider myself to be like stupid, but it made me feel stupid. I was like, I really don't understand this. And I would read everything that I could. I remember reading an article, probably by Greg Glassman, and it explained CrossFit and it explained programming. And I read it and I was like, I don't understand this. I gotta learn more till I can understand it. And I look at that article now, like if I were to read it now, I was like, this is fucking gibberish. Mm-hmm. That's why I didn't understand any sense.
It's the postmodernism of the fitness world.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Really, really good ideas at the beginning, and I think it could have been really well executed. And I think, you know, even if you ask Rip, he'd probably agree with me on this. It could have done a lot of, and it did do a lot of good. Like in, you know, '08, and before that, you know, there was a lot of good stuff coming from there. So I got obsessed again with nutrition stuff. You know, I read all the Rob Wolf stuff, all the zone diet stuff, anything that was peripheral to CrossFit, I got really heavily into, and then found Rip stuff, you know, through the CrossFit Journal and stuff like that, and then I remember watching the first couple of videos, and I was like, well, shit, here's a guy who's actually explaining things clearly. Mm-hmm. You know, finally, it makes a lot of sense, and then you start going down that rabbit hole, so to speak, and then it's like, all right, yeah, you know, all this shit makes way more sense. So when it came time to do I was looking for some kind of a fitness certification, and starting strength seemed like the best one, the hardest one, the one that made the most sense. So I started going heavy into starting strength, started training anybody I was working with, starting strength, and spending lots of time on the forums and reading everything I could.
What year did you get your SSC?
2011.
11.
Yep.
Okay. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I was 17.
And I started getting into it in like maybe '09 or so. I think Kathy and I, you know, Kathy was my first client, obviously.
Your wife.
We started in Columbus doing the program. I was doing it in my Vibram 5 fingers at the time.
And now if someone walked into one of the gyms with Vibram and 5 fingers, you'd probably recommend against hiring them.
Right. And they don't understand that I've been there. Like, they don't understand. Yeah. I'm like, dude, but you're just 10 years behind, man. Mm-hmm. You know, it would have been okay 10 years ago, but not today, not in 2022. There's enough information out there that wearing those fucking toe shoes is not the deal.
You should know better.
Yeah, you should know better. So yeah, so we started in Columbus, and then did the program and stuff, and then started coaching people. And then I went to a camp in Kansas City. We had moved back to St. Louis by now, but I went to a camp in Kansas City by Damon Wells was running it. Starting strength coach from back in the day, and then I realized that I had been doing and teaching everything completely ass wrong. So I left from that, and that was probably a year before I did the seminar, and then immediately started implementing all the corrections and stuff, and then went and did the seminar and passed. And yeah, that was that. And then I got into the logistics stuff, but just continued teaching self-defense, continued coaching, lifting, and the photography stuff had always been in the background. So I'd always been taking pictures, whenever I could, upgrading cameras and stuff. But that really accelerated when I got here. Now I had to take pictures. I wanted to take pictures. I don't want to say had to. I wanted to take more pictures. So there's a big gaping hole there. So I started doing it and got better and better and better at it.
By the way, I hired a photography coach. I think I told you this. Somebody, because this is, starting strength taught me essentially that if you want to learn something, go to someone that learned it themselves, has some expertise, hopefully a model, and then knows enough about it to where they can teach you and accelerate your own learning. So I do this in any domain in my life, whenever possible. And I have a photography coach, and I showed you the photos that he and I did together, and then you found a bunch of errors and had me fix those too while you were in the passenger seat of your car with your wife driving on your laptop connected to your phone for the internet. So yeah, it's cool how much the level of skill that you acquire in these different domains that you learn.
Thanks. Yeah.
And are you going to cover shooting? Because I want to talk about your what you just accomplished in shooting as well.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. So, I would say first and foremost with anything I do is I'm always interested in coaching and teaching it. So two things I always think about just naturally, it's not intentional, but anytime I get into something, it's like, how do I make money off of this? And how do I teach it to other people? Mm-hmm. So, and that's kind of where my life has ended up at this point, which is great. Right. But the other big one is shooting. So again, as a result of being a self-defense instructor, people will ask you about firearms, and I've owned a gun since I was 21. I've owned a handgun since I was 21, when I could legally own one, and I've been carrying a handgun since I was 23, when I could legally carry one concealed. So, but people just naturally ask you questions about fitness, and they ask you questions about firearms. So, have always been self-taught. And then I've taken various classes here and there. But again, this is another one of those things that since moving here, especially, I've had the flexibility in my schedule and the interest now in actually getting really good at something. So I go to the range all the time. I have a coach who I send videos to pretty regularly, and
an online coach, right?
And yeah. And then that's just one of those things over the last probably 10 years, if not more, that I've spent a lot of time on. Because when people ask me something and I'm not good at it, and it interests me, I want to get good at it, and I want to be good enough that I understand it enough to be able to teach it to somebody else. So I've been teaching people how to use a gun just randomly here and there since for a very long time. So it's just been one of the things that I've always that has always been a deal. But I can say that I've gotten significantly better at shooting over the last probably 3 or 4 years, and probably the most over the last year or so, just because I've dedicated the time to it.
Yep. Yeah. So, what was the name of the certification you just got for shooting? That's a pretty big deal, isn't it?
The Range Master is what it's called. Yeah, Tom Given's organization. I had always heard of Tom, and especially getting into the world of actual good combatives. I've always felt kind of like there's only a few people out there that are actually thinking about self-defense and how to teach people how to fight. And I've gravitated towards those folks like Ryan Hoover, you met and trained with.
He's great.
Yeah, and but all of a sudden I find this ShivWorks stuff and people who and out of that, there's a community, and it's a fairly large community of people who actually train and who actually think about fighting and how weapons integrate into fighting in real life, right? So, and you've met Paul, you've trained with Paul. I've always heard of Paul, but like Paul Sharp, I don't know the guy, right? But out of this combatives kind of community, I've always heard about Paul, and he came highly recommended, and I told you about him. You went to see him, and you have good things to say about him. But it's the same kind of deal, right? So I hear about Tom Givens and all these guys that I train with and I respect tell me that they're Rangemaster certified, Rangemaster TACCON. I keep hearing these words come up. Like, well, let me look into this. And I've never been interested in doing any firearms instructor shit because it's all crap. It's not any good. But I've been hearing about Rangemaster for a while, and then every time the classes would come up, I had a conflict, so I could never sign, or they sold out, so I couldn't. I never got into one. And then I managed to get into one last week, and I did the basic and advanced courses, and it was great. It was fantastic. I mean, the stuff that we say in our coaching lecture. Is there word for word. I mean, the same things that we say, observe what the person's doing, evaluate it, compare it to a model, and then give feedback. I mean, that's very basic coaching stuff. And when we say it, and when I say it right now, people are like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, that makes sense. But sure, okay, it makes sense, but good luck finding a class where somebody has thought about it to the level to be able to put those things together and deliver it to you, right? That just does not happen.
And it's obvious once you hear it, but that doesn't mean you would have thought of it yourself.
That's exactly right.
Like the entire Blue Book, for example.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So anyway, the course was excellent. Tom was excellent. Really, really good stuff. And I managed to pass. He's got high standards. I mean, if you would have told me what the standards were for passing, I would have been very skeptical that I was going to get through it. Yeah, I mean, the training was good. I came out a better shooter, and I came out a better coach too from doing that. So it was really good stuff.
Yeah, it must be really cool because your domain is kind of learning physical skills and then teaching others how to do them, especially when it comes to physical things, but violent things especially.
Right.
And learning all these different skills from all these different domains, and then learning how to coach and teach them, and then seeing how pros from other domains do things, that must really help you conceptualize this stuff and then kind of pressure test it in other areas. And I'm assuming that just adds to your overall abilities across all the different skills that you have. Is that kind of how things work? I mean, they all seem very complementary, even though the disciplines are different. There's a lot of thematic overlap.
Sure. Yeah. To me, it's all coaching. It all comes down to coaching for me, regardless of what it is. So, I approach, even when I'm learning things, I'm approaching it as the coach. So it's a good thing and a bad thing because it makes it very difficult for me to just consume a piece of instruction and be okay with it. So it takes me a while to find something that I want to spend any time listening to or learning, right? But at the same time, I think I don't know. I think maybe it accelerates my learning because I'm thinking about how I would teach it to somebody else. Mm-hmm. It's rare that I will go to a class and be like, I couldn't have done this this sounds super shitty, man, but I train various things all the time. I take I pay for photography and video courses and I do them. I pay for jiu-jitsu seminars and combative seminars and self-defense and shooting seminars, and everyone I go to, it's like I'm thinking to myself, I could do this better, or could I do this better? Mm-hmm. And at this point, it's pretty rare that I find one that I'm like, shit, I could not have done that any better. And I've been lucky over the last year or two that I've kind of found a group of people that I'm like, yeah, I need to pay this guy every time he's around. I need to pay him to go learn from him. Even if it's the same material, I'm going to go do it again because I'm learning something both as a practitioner, as a coach, like, guys like Craig Douglas and Cecil Birch and Tom Givens. Now, these are all guys that I will pay to do this, but it's all related. The photography stuff and the video stuff is kind of a separate skill set, and a separate deal. But in terms of like the physical stuff, the lifting, shooting, and the fighting stuff, it's all, I see it as all a complete picture for anybody who's serious about protecting themselves, right? So hence the lift, shoot, fight, right? That's the whole deal there. It's like if you're serious about shooting, you got to learn how to lift, and you got to learn how to fight. If you're serious about fighting, you got to be able to use a weapon, you got to lift, and everybody needs to lift. So it just makes sense that those three things go together.
So how did your lift, shoot, fight event go, by the way? Because you just did your first one where you get to, I'm not aware of any event, not even a Ryan Hoover event, because that doesn't have the lifting part. I think this is a unique thing, the lift, shoot, fight deal.
It is, yeah.
And you had attended so many different training seminars, and you've been coached by so many different people across so many different disciplines, and you were always thinking about how do you make it better, or can I do this better? Did that all come together the way you thought it would? Were you happy with the way that went?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, I think it went great. I think everybody that showed up really enjoyed it. We got a lot of good feedback. John Valentine was fantastic. I'm really glad he came and he ran most of it. So I was injured, so I barely did anything. I mean, I ran the lifting stuff. For the most part, Rip and Joe Leppo were there, and they helped with the coaching stuff. I did a lot of talking and a lot of standing, but Rip was doing a lot of walking around and taking a huge percentage of that off of me. But for the rest of the weekend, I was on a cane, and I was trying to sit down as much as possible. So anything that I didn't like about it was because I couldn't be involved to the degree I wanted to, right? So I had to leave it to John to do all of the fighting and all the shooting stuff. And he was, the plan was for him to be the lead anyway on that stuff, but yeah, I was pretty much out of commission the whole thing, but it was great. And the next one, we're going to do one again in the fall, and it'll be even better.
Awesome.
So,
well, if you get that up on the website before this episode goes live in a few weeks, we'll link to it in the description. If not, just go to startingstrength.com and keep your eyes peeled for this lift, shoot, fight #2 event in the fall. And maybe also subscribe to the Starting Strength newsletter to get updates on that stuff.
Right. Right.
Man, yeah. So lifting, you kind of found the thing. You became an SSC. Martial arts, you dabbled in all kinds of different martial arts. You're a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, and a legit purple belt. Because whenever, as I said, I'm very skeptical, and even you, especially when we first were getting to know each other, when someone tells me that, oh yeah, I'm this or that, it's like, okay, cool, but from what school, and are you any good? And legit purple belt. Under, who's the, you're under, I'm trying to recall, Machado purple belt.
Yeah.
And you're teaching at that school over there in the metropolitan area of Iowa Park. And then yeah, photography and videography, you're right. It doesn't relate necessarily, but it relates in the sense that it's very technical. It's very detailed. There are deep rabbit holes, and there are ways that are objectively better to do things versus not. And the other great thing about those skills is that this is kind of the one of the biggest challenges in business and in marketing. Ben, let's take Ben, for example. We just talked about this on an episode that he and I did with Jen. He has many products that he's built. One of them, for example, is called Oiled, which, attaches to your car and helps you stay on top of car maintenance. Really cool product. No one knows about it. So it doesn't matter.
Yep.
Doesn't matter how cool it is. No one knows about it. But with video, like what we're doing right now, you can tell stories, and you can you can capture the essence of what you're doing and show others how attractive and how useful it is. So they're complementary in that sense. And then the shooting stuff, I didn't know what to expect when you and I first went to the range, but fuck, man, I'm not a great shooter, but you can run circles around me. And I learned some stuff from you. I got to put some more rounds through the Glock to learn how to use that new optic and stuff you recommended. Which, by the way, that's one of the things I enjoy most about our friendship is that I really like gear, And every time I get into something, I ask you for gear advice. And then, although you make me significantly poorer, I have lots of cool gear, like this camera I'm looking at right now.
Well, it's funny because that's the thing that pisses me off about our friendship is that you get to do all this stuff that I do, and you get to learn it on the best equipment.
With a coach, with someone I
man.
get to just skip all the, all the pain in the ass stuff. Yeah. Thank you.
You never have to take a picture with a point and shoot camera and hope for the best results.
Man, 10 plus years ago, Ben and I were sitting in Asia on some, maybe in Bali or something. And I was like, man, I wish it was easier to take great photos because we're doing some pretty awesome stuff that I'd like to capture. And we're talking about the pros and cons of a DSLR. And I was like, I'm just going to wait. At the moment, this BlackBerry's got a 2 megapixel camera, but there's going to be a time when you have a DSLR integrated into your damn phone. And I've been waiting for that day. And the day came where it was pretty close. The iPhone 13 Pro, this thing is pretty fantastic. And that Denise video I mentioned, for example, that I recorded at Star Industry Boise, was on an iPhone 13 Pro. And I don't know, I did iPhone 13 Pro shooting for maybe 6 months, and then just as you'd expect, I'm like, okay, cool. Now we got to step it up. What's the next level? Because you see the phone is fantastic, and it's definitely good enough. It's even better than good enough. But if you want to do truly professional stuff, then you need this A7 IV with this sweet ass lens and these 4 lights and the sweet mic, and we want to make everything. If it can be made better and it's not ridiculously expensive or time consuming, why not make it better?
Sure. Yeah. The thing is, everybody overestimates their abilities, even though they, like we said at the beginning, most people are good at one or two things and they pretty much suck at everything else. And even, and especially men, right? Women don't suffer from this problem, but men way overestimate their abilities in all things, especially physical things. So that's one of the things that's always in my head. If I'm gonna do something and it's important to me, I think I hold myself to a pretty high standard, and I think that's why that's where the kind of the quote unquote obsession part comes into it. I really genuinely want to kind of be good at stuff.
Yeah, it's been humbling for me, for sure. I definitely fall into the category of overconfident, let's fucking go, we'll figure it out as we go kind of thing. And I think the biggest splash of cold water was when I first started sparring in Muay Thai.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh fuck, I've been training Muay Thai for a long time, I don't know how to fight. That was a rude awakening. Very valuable. And then hanging out with you guys, because as an executive, your breadth needs to be massive. You need to be able to have a conversation with anyone in the organization about anything they're working on, and at least be able to understand and go back and forth. And you don't need an Elon Musk it, right? Where he knows the stuff better than any domain expert. So what that means for most people is that your depth is kind of shallow. So you're compromising. You're changing breadth. You're changing depth for breadth, essentially.
Right. Yeah.
And you fuckers are the first people I've met where it's like the breadth is huge and the depth is also deep, and it's cool. It's really cool, and it makes me want to get better at lots of different stuff. And then I get frustrated because I'm answering emails and Slacks all day. Hence the goal of 2 hours on a screen, because we're doing different stuff on the computer, man. It'd be cool if I could learn video editing and do. I'm not sure what you spend most of your time on, but I'm just in my damn inbox.
I'm not either, man. I'm not sure either. No shit. I mean, if I were to do it like if someone were to ask me, tell me how you spend it, fuck, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know where the time goes. It's just it's crazy.
Yeah.
But one of the I guess we could leave everybody with something useful. If you care about something, don't be the best at it. If you're the best at, and what I mean by that is surround yourself with people who are better than you at stuff, because it's very easy to stroke your own ego and be comfortable being the top dog at something. So whatever it is. So if hanging out with Rip and Steph on a lot of things, I'm way fucking behind, and that's a really good place to be, right? Because you only have the only option is to catch up, right?
Yep.
I approach a lot of things like that, so um, yeah, surround yourself with people who are better at stuff than you. It's
When
very important.
I totally agree, and that also applies to friend groups. It's the whole,
Yep.
you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most amount of time with, and
Right.
at a certain point, you really can't have friends outside of those that you work with. That's where I'm at in life. So you better work with
Yep.
high quality people, otherwise you're
Right.
not going to progress. And whenever Rip schools me on something that I objectively should know, well, based on our positions, I should know more than he does about it, but he knows more than me. I just try to
Yeah.
comfort myself by saying, life is an accumulation of skills and experience. It's a linear progression to an extent. So and if you're bright and you work hard, the pace of your acceleration increases, and if you maintain that pace over the course of a lifetime, you just have a gigantic catalog of knowledge and things that you're great at.
Right.
And so I just comfort
Right.
myself by saying Rip's in his mid-60s, and I'm still a snot-nosed kid, I think is what he would call me. So I'll learn. I've got almost 30 more years, so I'll learn. But it's humbling, and it's also inspiring, and it's good to know that I don't have to solve all the problems myself. And
Yep.
that's actually the most comforting thing about the job now, based on the people we have in place between you, Ben, Jen, Rip, Steph, the extended team. I'm now in a position where I just have to ask the right questions. I don't really have to
Right.
have any of the right answers, because my whole approach to this thing is, speaking of breadth and depth. So let's take Gym OS. I wrote the first Gym OS, and it was 90 pages, and it had a lot of good stuff in it. And now you own Gym OS, and now you've expanded it and improved it and iterated upon it, and that's how this thing came about. Essentially, this whole deal,
Right.
this franchise company, started with you and I having a conversation over Thai food next to Paul Horn's gym in LA one day,
Yep.
and then from there it was just like we said at the beginning of the podcast, just do whatever needs to be done, try to make it better.
Right.
And then for me, it's put in people that are better at, they're a domain expert more so than I am, and they can do a better job than I can. And if I can do that across the entire organization, we're going to have, well, we do have a very well-oiled machine. And as you said, now that the machine is built, it's just about optimizing. So,
Yep. Yep.
yep. You've got to run to jiu-jitsu, man. Anything else you want to mention before we close?
No.
Cool.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, dude. Good talking to you. It'll be good to hang out with you next week, by the way. Nick's coming to town. We're going to talk to John Conti about how we can step up our video content, because Conti is a phenomenal cinematographer, probably the best in Idaho. And he met me, Ben, Jen. We went on a hike last week, and he's one of us. This guy is a savage. He has an insane
Nice.
work ethic. He does not settle for anything but perfect. He spends 1 hour per minute on average when he makes a video, for example. So getting you and him in a room and talking about how we can make this YouTube channel just this giant megaphone that shows how much of an impact we're having on people's lives in a more compelling way. Like I said before, the product is built, and now it's a matter of just sharing it with the world. And we have this great platform where we can do it. So I'm excited to see you, man.
Me too.
All right, buddy. Thanks for the time.
All right. Later.
See you guys.